Hi, this is David Baumblatt from Terabant Leadership. Thanks for joining. I already see the comments right there. Shane, I see I'm here this time. Thanks for joining, Shane. I appreciate it. Again, I'm posting this on Rumble, YouTube, and X. We'll try to get it out with more later unless I get censored. So I appreciate everyone's time. What I want to do is explain this. There was a video given to me by one of the followers. I'm forgetting your name. You were in one of the comments in Rumble. And you gave me this video. So in the future, if there's any other requests, I'll do my best. The video is called Chud the Builder. I've never heard about him. I found the clip though, the clip that you gave me, it's on X. We're going to review it. But what I want to do is combine sort of two videos, you could say, and it's really together, even though one of the topics I could do it on my own. And it's about, there's the recent Turning Point USA conference that was held, and you had a lot of speakers. Ben Shapiro, you had Steve Bannon, and there's a split happening. We all know that. It's going to split. And Chud the Builder, I haven't seen the whole clip, but the follower, whoever sent it to me, I believe what happened was the man said the word nigger. And once he said that, he's been banned and shamed and you know what, and we're going to talk about it. But I want to emphasize the importance of freedom of speech. And if you ever learn this leadership lesson, it's a really important leadership lesson, and it's based on common sense. But if they, the government, the entity, whatever you want to call it, if they are able to control how you speak, they will control how you think. Controlling people, human beings' ability to speak is a way to manipulate how they think. And that's why freedom of speech, the First Amendment, is so important. And this is also one of the areas that China opened up my eyes, because what happened, and trust me, China is not the pinnacle of freedom. I'm not saying that. But when it comes to freedom of speech of certain topics in America that are taboo, they're not taboo in China. They are freely spoken about. What would be some of these topics? Topics about feminism, about women, topics about race, topics about Jews, and yes, the topic about Adolf Hitler. It is very, very different in China. And they speak with it in a very open, matter-of-fact manner. There's no laws and whatnot. But we all know in America, and this is where this word nigger comes from. The Chinese word is called heiguizi. Heiguizi is their word for nigger. They'll say it a lot. Now, what I do want to emphasize, Shane, I don't know if you can hear me on here, but if you see, because I see you, I just want to make sure I'm coming through okay, but feel free to put another comment. But what I do want to emphasize is this is, and again, I'm trying to be the polite person, but it's also leadership. These words are very impolite words to say. Whether you say the word nigger or you say another vulgar word like, we'll just say asshole. These are words that you should not be saying normally, but I think there should be tolerance for people that are angered. You know, when you're angry, you say stuff that when you're not angry, you wouldn't say. And of course, if you're trying to do humor and if people are laughing, it is what it is. But other than that, no, you shouldn't say these words. You can, that's what freedom of speech means. But the point of locking down our freedom of speech, where they're using these words almost like, for lack of a better word, like an atomic bomb, that if you say them, you're going to be fired from your job, you're going to be regulated to a certain lifestyle, you're going to be censored, this and that. It is a form of communism. So what we're going to do is, before we go to this clip, we're going to do 3 clips. We're going to do a first clip that I just posted today on X, which is interesting. It goes to this about freedom of speech. Hey, Shane, thanks so much. I see you. Thanks for hearing. So we're going to go for this clip that I posted on X today. And what does it relate to? Freedom of speech. Then we're going to go to this clip called Chud the Builder. And we're going to, I don't know if we're going to go through the whole clip, but you'll get it. But then we're going to go then to Turning Point USA. Because I'm telling you, Turning Point USA is going to break, meaning MAGA is going to split. And we're going to talk about it. But first, let me just go here to hopefully everyone can see this. So this is what I posted today. Hope everyone can see it. So this is from Dan Bilzerian. I don't follow Dan. I'm not saying you can. I never knew Dan. Dan sounds like he's political. If I remember Dan correctly, I thought he was like, I don't know, he was like with the girls. He was doing some girl thing on X or whatever, his Instagram thing. I even when I was in China, I still remember seeing some stuff about Dan. But Dan takes a big political stand. Let me push this up, and we're going to post this clip. I mean, we're going to listen to this clip. But if you read my comment above, this relates to the clip. I obviously I reposted this clip from Dan, and what you read from me is exactly what I mean. And I say our country will collapse. The systems aren't working anymore. We know this. Our systems are getting worse and worse. And when we get to Turning Point USA, we're also going to see the systems are splitting. Even MAGA, I'm telling you, MAGA is going to split. And what did I say? Again, this was my best, I'm not going to say guess, but guess try. If you said, David, what is American? Christian, European, freedom. Like if I thought about our forefathers that left Europe and went to America and they founded America. And again, I'll do another topic on the Native Americans. Yes, if you're a Native American, I agree. We probably committed genocide to the Native Americans. And that's another topic. It is what it is. But our forefathers, I believe they founded America based on three principles. Christianity was a founding principle. 2, European. It was founded primarily for, by, and of white Western European men. And 3, freedoms. Freedoms of many issues, but let's just start with free speech. And I think I think we are going to hit an economic collapse next year that's going to rival the Great Depression. So I said this prediction. Let's listen to this clip right here. And the person, I don't even know who this person's speaking, but I saw the clip that Dan Bilzerian sent. Again, I'm not following Dan, which is nothing wrong. Follow him. I don't really have I don't know Dan that much. Sounded like he was a ladies' man before, and now he's getting into the political realm. Yeah, go for it. It sounds good to me. But the person who's speaking here, I have no clue who this person is. But is he speaking words of wisdom? Well, I'm posting them, so that person's definitely influenced me. So I thought, yeah, let's post this. So let me bring this up here. Hopefully everyone can see it. Let's listen. It's a short clip. It's only about a minute and a half, but I think there's some words of wisdom here.
And our leaders are low-life scum that screw little girls so the Jews can screw America. That's what's happening in this country. I just said it. That's what's going on in this country. And our FBI is corrupt. The Supreme Court is corrupt. The Justice Department is corrupt. The news media is corrupt. The whole country is corrupt because we've walked away from Almighty God and we've allowed Kabbalah practicing Jews to defile the nation. Put that video out. Go ahead and clip this video and send it out. I dare you. You won't do it because you're scared that the truth may get out to the American people. I'm had it up to here with the corruption in this country. Little children being raped for the benefit of Israel. That's all it's about, Doc. Little American children being raped for the benefit of Israel. American politicians raping little American girls to be videotaped by Israeli Mossad so that Israel can blackmail American politicians. That's the state of America today. God ought to destroy this country for what we've become.
So let me just get it here. What do I think? I think a great phrase is God is dead in America. God is dead and wrath is coming. I do. It sounds like I'm being very hype. But remember, I back up my words. I left America in 2010. I never wanted to do I just wanted to be left alone. And think about it. When I left the FBI in 2007, if I said the FBI was corrupt, you got to go back to 2007, the war on terror. The FBI was so important. Oh my God, the Taliban. I mean, this is how retarded Americans were. I don't think Americans would believe me that the FBI is corrupt. Now, there are some diehard people who are always, the government's corrupt, the CIA is corrupt. I get it. But I'm talking about the common everyday American. You're going to see it. Our systems aren't working. Think about it. Donald Trump is in charge, second time. Now we got Kash Patel, man. Well, we have Dan Bongino. I just did a episode on him yesterday. Is the FBI corrupt? It absolutely is. And it goes down the line because what I said, it goes back to West Point. So then we go here. Now, my whole thing, Shane, I see you, says, I'm 26. The government has lost everything after MAGA. Again, we'll see how this is going. Again, the one thing that I have going for me that you could say fight against is I don't pay taxes. I'm not paying into this system anymore. Again, I'm not saying China is our ally. I'm not paying into this system. But I'm telling you, this system is going down. We know it. It is not going to work. And you're seeing more and more crack. Like I said, if our system was working, I've said this before, you shouldn't see me on here. Every politician I've wrote has ignored me, but at the same time, they say, thank you for your service. Remember, politicians are similar to Dan Bongino when he was in the FBI. Their salary comes from your paycheck. They have a duty to. When a whistleblower does government corruption, you don't ignore. They should take my case. And then maybe if they disagree, they could say, no, I think David is lying. But they took the case. But you don't completely ignore. They have a duty. They take your tax money. And I guarantee I am just one of so many examples in our country. Our systems aren't working anymore. This system's going to go down. And you're going to see it when we go to the next one. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to see a clip that's on X. It's called Chud the Builder. Again, I have no clue about this, but a viewer, a follower sent this to me. He said, hey, David, here's a clip from X. Please do this view. It's another attack on freedom of speech. And it's interesting because it goes into Turning Point USA. You have to understand, I think we all agree that these vulgar terms should not normally, again, it's your freedom of speech. If you want to, I guess you could say, cuss like a sailor, it's your freedom. Hey, fuck you, dickhead, asshole. Hey, it's your freedom of speech. I just think it would sound vulgar, but that's just my opinion. But there still should be freedom of speech. And if you notice that we've differentiated vulgarities from these racial terminologies, like if you say the N-word, what is the N-word? Well, it's nigger. Or God forbid you say something about the Jews, like you're a kike, or I don't know, you're a penny pinching Jew, or whatever. Why is that at such a higher level? I believe, and this is another reason why MAGA will collapse, we have to go to a fundamental principle, and we're going to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy later on. I'm not a fan of this guy at all. And I probably have more experience dealing with India than the average American man. I've been to India many times, not many times, but I've been to India 3 times, and I've worked a lot with Indians. I have nothing wrong with India, but India is for the Indians, and America are for the Americans. And who's the Americans? Primarily Europeans. So the point is, I go back to that language. The reason why this is weaponized language is because it connotates racial context. But why is that so important? I believe it's a communist plan to destroy, to marginalize, to push away the white man. And who's the white man? Our founding fathers? I mean, they were white men. What's wrong being a white man in a Western country? I don't screw with Chinese men in China. I absolutely admit that China belongs to the China. I do not screw with the Chinese man in China. Why can't we have that same outlook for Western countries, that Western countries belong to the white man? So this weaponized language. So if I say, hey, you're an asshole, that's vulgar language, but that's at a lower state than saying, hey, you're a nigger, or you're a kike, you're a spick, because it's racialized. Okay, I get it. It's racialized. So what's the problem? They want to control that language primarily because there's not many racial terminologies against the white man because they don't care. You can say whatever you want to the white man. So it's really a way to weaponize the white man. And we'll do more, but if we don't at least come to an agreement, which is why I'm saying MAGA will split. There's many issues, like we're talking about Israel. You know, the issue on, is it America first or is Israel first? That's a pretty important question. What are we? But another question is America, and I get that America, unlike Europe, has a history of immigration, but America was generally founded by white men. So we have to start talking about racial. But they don't want us to do that. So let me go into this video first here. Again, this was a let me do this. Hopefully everyone sees this. Okay, so I just want to point out, again, I have no clue. It's not like I'm doing a pitch. This guy, Chud the Builder, has a lot more fun. I think he's got like 100,000 followers. I just never heard about him, but this is the clip that, and Gavin McGinnis, I knew about him. But anyway, we're just going to watch a little bit of this clip. Again, a follower put this clip on Rumble and said, hey, David, please talk about this clip on this. And I think it has to do. So we're just going to listen a little bit to this clip, and then we're going to talk about it.
Picture, posted it everywhere. It said,
all right, let me bring this down. Here we go.
So you're just a mild-mannered guy driving the speed limit, and a group of black people started screaming and attacking you. There must be a detail you're missing out.
well, there was no, I was just driving to work, and she starts yelling at me saying, "What the fuck's your problem? What's your problem?" And I said, "Nigga, I'm just doing the speed limit." And then as soon as I said that, she threw her drink out the window. She said, "Nigga," threw the drink out at the truck. I rolled the window up, and then we drive to the next light. Of course, we get the red light again. She rolls her window down again, and all I did was I rolled mine down and hit her with the cross. They took that picture, posted it everywhere, said, "This guy's calling us hard R's, blah, blah, blah," got me fired. I started my company in response to this. This was about 2 years ago.
So again, the clip is 20 minutes. We're not going to go through the whole clip, but again, if there was a specific question from the follower, please talk. But I'm guessing, I didn't see the whole clip, but I do think we can all agree that in America, if you're a white man and you use the word nigger, you could be in a lot of trouble. And I disagree. What I do want to state is, again, I do think it is a vulgar word. It's impolite, and I don't think you should use it. I do think there's tolerance, again, if you're anger, we say things in anger, or if you're joking. If people are laughing, people are laughing. That's why humor sucks in America. But what I don't agree with is the weaponization that if you use this word nigger, you're fired, your life is over. I think we could all agree this word is now weaponized. And I find that as a military veteran, a direct attack against freedom of speech. And I look at the word nigger, just like if you looked at a guy who cut you off in traffic and said, "Hey, motherfucker," that's kind of an impolite term. Maybe you were angry, but I don't want to live in a world that says, "Hey, motherfucker," yeah, you fucking nigger. And then boom, it's the atomic bomb. Not happening. I disagree with that. It's an impolite word that you should try to avoid. Other than that, though, I'm not going to stand for this weaponization of these racial terminologies against the white man. Just not going to tolerate that. It's just not, it's against leadership.
And that's followed me throughout the whole time trying to, there's the picture of me with the cross, and they've been trying to cancel me and slander me, and they posted me all over Facebook the entire time I've had my company, trying to say, "Do not hire this guy. He's hateful. He's this, is that." They say nothing about the work I actually do, but slandering me to the point where I had my tongue basically sliced out of my mouth. Facebook would not let me post anything, wouldn't let me comment, wouldn't let me. They're saying he's a rapist.
Okay, you're being metaphorical when you say your tongue chopped out of your face, right?
Yeah, modern day tongue slicing, when
right,
like the deplatforming. And yeah, obviously the metaphor is that this is what they do to people. They let them slander you. Meanwhile, you can't defend yourself or say anything in response. And so I just started posting on Instagram, and then Instagram.
So we're going to, because I want to get the turning point, we're going to skip around. But again, if you're a follower and you want me to do commentary on a video, please at least focus on a certain point, unless it's a short video. But I think I'm covering the main point, and that is, I think this person said the word nigger. His life is falling apart, which I totally can understand, meaning believe in America. And what do I think? I think generally is we need to uphold freedom of speech. So you still may disagree with the way he speaks, the vulgarity, it's freedom of speech. But we'll skip around. Maybe there's another part, but I think that was what the viewer wanted me to focus on and say, "Hey, David, this guy said the N-word and his life has been destroyed. What do you think?" Well, I think as a military veteran, we probably need to uphold the freedom of speech, the First Amendment. Let me just skip here a little bit.
So some guy was like doxing you, and then you made that public, and now your crime is like digital harassment. Isn't that what happened?
No, he was doxing me and texted me saying, "Oh, you can't handle the heat. You can't handle the doxing," and saying, "Why aren't you responding to me?" Because I wasn't replying. And so I allegedly forwarded my calls to him for a single day, and that's what they arrested me for. Not for telling people.
Okay, so now we're getting into, and again, I totally believe this story. And this is what I'm saying is, once you're labeled, and I say, if you're part of the far left here, which could be, I'm telling you, we're not your enemy. Again, you might disagree with our ideology, the far right, just like we disagree with your ideology on the far left. But we continue to fight against each other, and the globalists rule us. I tell you, my best view, because again, this is probably, he's being now probably harassed by the far left, and he might end up in jail. To the far left, I'll keep going, but I've said many times, the best is to build your base. Let us build our base, whether it's in different states. and focus on the primary enemy for the short term. But I say again, if you say these words like nigger, your life could literally be destroyed. So that's how much weaponized this racial language has become in America. And if you're a military veteran who's fought for the freedoms like First Amendment, then what are you doing? What did we fight for?
To call him, not for putting out his information or retaliating in any way, but allegedly forwarding the calls that I've been reporting to the police station and to the sheriffs and even the FBI.
You know what I bet?
They
I bet they saw those calls and texts and DMs or whatever, and they're like, "You're gonna fucking die. I'm gonna cut your head off." And I bet some bureaucrat in law enforcement thought you were saying that to him instead of you showing him what you go through every day. I bet it's
they actually wrote in the reports that Dalton.
Yeah, I don't want to skip around, but my time in the FBI, it was still the FBI. A major push in terms of investigations was white supremacy Nazis. Really? But I thought it was China. No, it's Venezuela. No, it's the Taliban. We don't know what we're doing. I mean, really, white supremacy. Do we really think? But I mean, if you are being alleged as a white supremacist, meaning you use the nigger word, I don't have faith that law enforcement is going to help you. I mean, maybe now with Trump, who knows? But I just still think it's a very dangerous place to be in America if you are now labeled as racist and they have you on record for saying the word nigger. It could be a very dangerous place in America, and it's against our values of freedom of speech.
Allegedly, or Dalton, there's evidence that shows that Dalton forwarded his calls to Mr. Blank. And that's the crime. The crime is call forwarding. It's harassment via call forwarding. It's not even that they think that I made the calls. They're not even alleging that I did make any communication attempts, which I didn't. I didn't try to communicate with them at all, which is why it's going to, in my opinion, it will more than likely be dismissed. And every lawyer I've talked to will say the same thing. They just won't represent me in court because they're scared of all of the public outcry. I had a lawyer I met walking out of my arraignment, and he said, "Oh man, I represent murderers and rapists. I don't mind representing you. I don't care what people think about me."
Yeah, let me just, I got to pause this, and I've said this before. Let me just pause this, and it just shows why America is really falling apart. And it relates to his story because, again, you remember you talk about lawyers and representing murderers and stuff. And we're also going to talk, this relates a little to the Turning Point USA. This is where our country's falling apart. I want you to ask yourself, I've posed this question again, but remember I said about America is going to collapse. We lost, our systems aren't working. We're losing our value system. And it relates to what he just said, reminding me when he said the lawyers wouldn't represent. I want you to ask yourself, assuming you're an American citizen, I want you to ask yourself that you want to go forward and put some type of social media company or some type of, you're going to push social media on this certain agenda. And there's A and B. And you ask yourself, what has a higher level of being censored? A is you're going to talk about Adolf Hitler. You're going to talk about Adolf Hitler, and you're going to try to convince your followers that you believe Adolf Hitler is a good leader, meaning Adolf Hitler is positive. We're going to keep it really simple. It's going to be Adolf Hitler is positive. So that's agenda A. But then there's agenda B, where you're like, you're now going to choose pedophilia, having sex with kids. And you're going to try to convince your viewers that pedophilia is good, that it should be legalized, that we as adult men or women should be legally allowed to have sex with little kids. We're talking 5-year-olds. So again, I want you to ask yourself, I know it's a very subjective question, even though we could look at objectively, get data points, but I just want, what is your gut telling you? So modern day America, you and your buddies are in your room, say, hey, we want to set up a new social influence, I don't want to say propaganda, but a platform, and you're debating. We're like, Adolf Hitler is a good leader. Adolf Hitler is good, or pedophilia is good. And I want you to ask yourself, what has the higher percentage of being censored, of being deplatformed? What do you think has a higher percentage of just being canceled, censored, doxxed, negative? And what has a higher percentage maybe of not, I'm not saying succeeding, but of going, meaning censorship? Where do you think there would be a higher censorship? Adolf Hitler good? Pedophilia good? And I'm not going to answer that question. I want you to answer that to yourself. But that would show you a good litmus test, at least your subjective guess of where is America. And that relates to what he just said about lawyers. He's like, man, I've defended murderers, I defended rapists, but man, you said the word nigger, I want to stay away from you. What's happening in America? What's happening? Maybe there's something about these global corporations. I could tell you in China where it would be. I mean, I don't want to go into it, but China has a whole different view of Adolf Hitler. Totally different view. But I can tell you, in China, if you said Adolf Hitler's a good leader or pedophilia is good, it's simple. It's pretty fast. What would be pro and what would be con? What would be in America? Just let that sink in. We're going to go back. We're going to go back to him now.
I talked to him after they came and arrested me again, which we can get into in a second. But I went over to his office and was like, hey, man, I never heard back from you. What's going on? I just got out of jail again. And he said, oh, well, my clients who are up in the county jail, they told me I'm not allowed to represent you, and they actually scare me. That's what he said verbatim. And I said, okay, so you let them fuck your wife whenever they come out of jail too? Or because they scare you? It's like, well, okay, awesome. Well, I asked him straight to his face in front of his secretaries and his intern, and I said, do you know any lawyers with some balls that will represent me? And he said, it's not about balls. Yeah, yes, okay, buddy.
Yeah, I've had this. Everyone on the right has had that exact same experience. And every time it happens, I say, Jeffrey Dahmer had a lawyer, right? He ate blacks. But if crazy. You hate blacks, then you sorry, it's not allowed. That's amazing. Hilarious. So what's the latest charges then?
So the latest charge was we went out to a restaurant, and I'm so up in arms about the conditions of my release.
We're just going to skip around. I think we're understanding. I have a feeling most of the viewers should not be so surprised of how hard the axe will fall on your neck if you're a white man in America and you step out of bounds, politically correct, particularly if you use the word nigger or other things. Hopefully no one should be that surprised. It is weaponized. It's very dangerous. And again, it's attack on free speech.
So you were also saying you go out, you breathe, you took off your helmet and breathe the air, but the air is pretty stinky. I mean, you're in a lot of danger.
Yeah, the danger, I guess, is, to some people it seems real, but I walk around and I'm still operating my business. I just I just completed a job, and by the grace of God, I've been getting a little bit more work because of the attention. And it's like they've been trying to starve me for years and, saying all these horrible things about me. Like I said, they silenced me. I couldn't speak to my people around Clarksville because everyone's on Facebook.
Wow. Do you have a Give, Send, Go?
I do. It really hates me that, can't stand the thought of even being with a guy a month or two. And it's mind blowing. And so it's like they cut my tongue out, and then the Lord gave me a voice that makes them sound like a mosquito in your ear. So,
well, I'm cutting your tongue.
Okay. So what I think is hopefully the viewer who wanted me to do the clip, I think we got it mostly. And that is, firstly, I don't think a lot of the viewers should be surprised. And that is, in fact, I told you, I have to do videos of Americans leaving America, where to go. Like I said, you either need to do two things. You either need to leave America, or if you're going to stay in America, you better get ready to fight. But anyway, a lot of the people leaving are white men. The point is, we're just not putting up with this. I couldn't put up with a lot of this stuff in America. So again, you should not be surprised with this person. I guess his name on social media is called Chud the Builder. Never heard about him. But anyway, he's a white man, and he said the word nigger. Maybe he did some other stuff. I don't know. But definitely, I think we could all agree that if you just say the word nigger, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. I mean, let's face it. A normal person, if you say the word nigger, a white man, I mean, you could easily get fired. Who knows the amount of trouble we're in? We know this. And what is wrong with that? Well, it's against freedom of speech. We have to be more tolerant over freedom of speech. But we do agree that it is a vulgar word, and you should not be normally saying that word. It is vulgar. It's impolite, like these other vulgar words, but not to the point that it's been politically weaponized against the white man. That's the key. Okay. So Shane, I'll have to do another video on people leaving, where to go. This is what I want to do now. I want to show, and this next part goes into race. I should have done a video all for this. This is Turning Point USA. And I should do a point on Charlie Kirk. I don't know enough about him. There were things about Charlie Kirk I'm just don't agree with from leadership, but we'll keep it there. I mean, the person was assassinated. There's a lot of rumors. There's something with his wife, Erica Kirk, that's just very strange. And I guarantee if I delve into it, it's very odd. But I want to point out, this is obviously Turning Point USA, what we're going to show clips, and the MAGA movement will split. It's going to split. It just for the same reason where Donald Trump, rightly so, went in there and he talked about the rhinos, the Republican name only. And you can almost say Donald Trump either split or reformed the Republican Party into the MAGA party, which was good. I totally agree. But if you think MAGA is the way to go, no, there's many issues with there. And again, the two issues, well, I'd say three issues that come immediately would be Israel is a major issue. Feminism is a major issue, and also race. We're going to watch three. There's one person that was pretty interesting is Steve Bannon. I'm not too familiar with Steve Bannon. The first time I've ever heard about Steve Bannon, I believe it's when Donald Trump first ran for president. I think it was chief of staff. He got fired, but I think his relationship with Donald Trump is Steve's interesting. Steve's also interesting. His daughter graduated West Point, younger than me. I don't know his daughter. And Steve is a former naval officer. But Steve Bannon, there's a sense, I need to look at him more in depth. And you can see in these clips, I agree. He has, I think, a much more pure nationalistic identity and political ideology that I think is definitely where the MAGA movement is going to go, or whatever, split. But meaning, and we're just going to say nationalism. He has a much more nationalist political ideology where I don't think the MAGA as a whole, I've said many times, it has a lot of nationalist political ideology, but I still wouldn't consider it a nationalist movement. And we're gonna show you why. So let me first do some. Let me do a clip here. I think it's JD Vance. Okay, so this is a great clip here. Hopefully, let me make sure we're aligned. Okay, now remember I said the MAGA movement's going to split. I don't know who this guy is. Man, I'm forgetting his name. He is the person that you're seeing on the screen. For some reason, the name is not coming to my head anyway. He's a former naval officer. He blocked me on Twitter. The reason I wrote him is he's one of these major political influencer. I can't remember his name. It's not Harry Cole. Harry Cole, I think, is the interviewer. But anyway, remember I said about the military splitting? I don't have a high regard. Look at this guy, former naval officer. Does he look like an apex predator to you? What did I keep saying about the military officer corps? Very weak. They're very corporate. A lot of even these MAGA people. But interesting. Again, I wish I remembered his name. I can't remember this guy's name. But it would be interesting if the question was ever posed to him. Why did you block David Baumblatt on X? All he asked you to do as a former military officer was to repost about government corruption, support patriotism. Watch what he'll stumble. He'll be like, these, and I said many times, these military officers, they're not very high speed. They're very weak. Think I'm wrong? Look who Donald Trump picked to be the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. And what has Pete said? The military's weak. We have got to get back to warrior ethos. I've said this many times. The military officer corps are a bunch of corporate fucking managers. They're just not that very. They're not that very special. They're not very strong. Their leadership is lacking. But look at this little pencil neck, little naval turd right here. I don't know what he did in the Navy, but I guarantee he wasn't anything special. But just to block me, it's amazing. Remember I said about the camaraderie, the military? But anyway, let's see what he says here. It's just one commentary. And again, there's going to be 3 clips. And this clip, which relates also to the Chad the Builder, because the Chad the Builder clip is about racism. And are we a white country or not? It's an important question. Is America a white European country or not? When it was founded, it is. So this MAGA thing, it's going to get into it, but that's one thing where MAGA will disagree. I would probably say that America was founded by white European men, and it is a white European country. If it's not, when did this happen? Who said? That's news to me. Wouldn't it be news to you? If China all of a sudden said, China is no longer a Chinese country, wouldn't that surprise you? If Japan said Japan is no longer a Japanese country, if India is no more, wouldn't that surprise you? Surprise me. So under George Washington, if George Washington was alive today and he looked at America, the racial component of America, do you think he would be happy, pleased, approving? I don't think he would. I don't think our World War II vets. So let's go. But anyway, this is a naval. I should have remembered name. He's a turd. I'm telling you, I've been in the military enough. I've been to the academies. I tell you, most of these military officers are very geeky, dweeby, corporate, just lackeys, for a better word. But again, this guy blocks me on Twitter. This is the camaraderie where I just say, hey, please repost. I need help, government, and he blocks me. What a shitbag. But here we go. Let's see what he says.
Vice President say something about the right coming together. Obviously, he's close to Tucker Carlson. He's obviously, he's walked quite a careful line on this so far. Do you expect him to say something, tomorrow?
Well, I think there's certainly a question for those of us who knew Charlie, were close to Charlie, like JD was, like Tucker was as well, that, we need to understand there is a goal in our coalition. We can have division. We can have various issues. There are people who are pro-life in the coalition.
So he's talking about, so this is why I put the clip in. He's talking about MAGA, how we have to come together. This is a naval officer. He blocks an army officer where I said for help. What did I tell to the American people? The military veterans are only 1% of the American public, 1%. If military veterans can't even come together and say, hey, brother, I got your back. You think 350 million people it ain't gonna happen. We're gonna go to civil war. I think that's why every clip has a reason. This was the reason. So he's talking about, people are saying the MAGA is gonna split. It will. And he's saying we gotta come together. Really? 2 military officers, and you betrayed your oath. You have a fellow military officer who said, I need help. I have government corruption to report. Can you just repost? Just repost my thing. And he's like, nah, he blocks me. You think me and him are close? No, he's a shitbag. Well, guess what? That's a microcosm of America. If military veterans are not close, I doubt the regular American civilians are close.
Coalition, there are people who are pro-choice who voted for Donald Trump as well. But at the end of the day, we come out, we vote, we go to the election, we put the ballot in.
Oh yeah, vote. That's another thing to horseshit. It's like, yeah, the way to fix America is vote. That's what George Washington did. He said, hey, let's make America, that evil king of England, let's just vote our way. No, I think they used guns and ammo. So that's what they wanted. Just get out there and vote. That'll do. All right, we'll see how that's going for you. Keep voting. We'll see how that. I'm not a big fan of voting. I mean, I left America. I do think that's an option. People are doing it more. But do I believe voting is going to change America? I should do. There's some pretty interesting clips that sort of back up what I'm saying, but I'm not a big fan of voting. If you think I'm wrong, well, Trump, who's the savior, his second term. Let's see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, I guess keep voting. Yeah, good luck with that.
Because the overall political opponent is the left, and of course, the far left.
Oh, so this is what I want. So the enemy is the far left. No, you're the right. You blocked me. It's just not. They want to put, I'm telling you, if you're far left on here, I'm not saying you're my buddy. I could say you could be my ally for the short-term enemy, but I'm telling you, if you're far left and we're far right, we are not the enemies, not in the short run. This globalist government is destroying us. These globalist corporations, they are destroying both of us. I disagree. I don't believe the far left is our enemy, at least in the short run. Not at all.
Left, which has become much more violent and Marxist and extreme in this country. It was those people, that far left, those are the ones who killed Charlie Kirk.
You also got to remember, our founding fathers were also pretty violent men. They would be deemed as domestic terrorists by today's standards. They took guns, they took ammo, and they started a revolution. They would be pretty much considered domestic terrorists, and they would have received the death penalty if they would have lost the war. So this, again, thing about violence, relax.
Those are the ones that are taking shots at all conservatives and ICE members and people like Donald Trump. And so those are the people that really are the ones that we need to be focused on. And I wouldn't be surprised if JD said something about that.
Would you like to
All right. I just, like I said, I don't really have a high expectation of these MAGA people. So we're just going to do 2 clips. We're going to leave the last clip the best. That's Steve Bannon. So we're going to do one clip here about Vivek Ramaswamy. I think Shane said if voting mattered, they wouldn't let us do it. It's a joke. I think it's a joke. If anyone thinks I'm wrong, I don't know. How's America been going for the last decades now? Oh, it's the left. I mean, think about it. Every couple, whatever cycles, we get a Democrat and then we get a Republican. And then, I mean, what do we think? George Bush was a great president? Was George Bush getting us into Afghanistan? I mean, do the Republicans really have a better record than the Democrats? I mean, think about it. Even John F. Kennedy, we could talk good stuff about him. He was a Democrat. So, I mean, really, do we really look at America's history where the Democrats destroyed America, but the Republicans saved it? Really? Do you really look to think, well, those Republicans, man, they're the good guys, and those Democrats are the bad guys? I don't think so. I look at them as kind of the same. I think the joke was the WWF fake wrestling, like they're both wrestling. They're both working together for the corporation to get all your money. So yeah, I don't have this big theory of let's vote and let's just get, again, if Donald Trump doesn't fix this system on his second term, what will? A third term? JD Vance? It's an interesting question. Just pause it. So if you're a MAGA person, if Donald Trump doesn't fix the system, which is an interesting leadership question to start, what exactly does fixing the system mean? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know, maybe bringing America back to Christianity, maybe bringing back America to a racially European country, maybe bringing back the First Amendment, faith, family, freedom. That's at least a start. But we should ask ourselves, what does success look like? Number one. And two, will Donald Trump succeed in his second term? And if not, who will? So it goes back to voting. Like, well, what does this mean anymore? Maybe this voting doesn't really mean anything, and maybe the people in charge are really controlling us, which I go, again, to the far left. I disagree with a lot of your ideology. Hey, look at China. I'm not saying I agree with China, but there's many things that you could say, I guess we could work together for the greater good. But I'd say, again, for the far left and the far right, our short-term enemy, it's the same. It's not me and it's not you. Once you get some common sense, you'll realize it. But we really shouldn't be fighting in the short term. But in the long term, yeah, we have a different ideology, and maybe we just need to separate. Maybe America needs 2 different countries, maybe one for the left, one for the right. But either way, we have a common enemy, and it is called globalism. It is called corporate cronyism. That's the key. Let me talk again. So now we're going to do a clip on Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm not a fan of Vivek. And the way I look at Vivek is very simple. We're going to do Leadership 101. Vivek, you are from India. If your country, your home country, I could care less whether you were born. If I was born in China, would that make me Chinese? Nope. If I was born in Japan, would that make me Japanese? Nope. If I was born in Saudi Arabia, would that make me an Arab? Nope. So I'm not really key or care less if you were, but I was born in America. I think the famous saying is, if you were born, it doesn't matter if you're born in a barn, it doesn't make you a horse. So, okay, I get it. You are going to be more culturally aligned to be in America. And everyone knows me. I'm definitely more tolerant about giving people permanent residence, long-term visas. I'm not a big fan of people getting citizenship. So again, I believe that citizen or birth, I guess it's called birthright citizenship, that should be abolished. But anyway, back to Vivek. Vivek, your home country is India. Can I do what you're doing in India? Can I go to India? Can I be an Indian citizen? Can I run for politics in India? Will I be welcomed, meaning non-racism against me in India, like we do for you in America? No. The answer is not even close. So I would say, Vivek, is before you lecture Americans on how open and tolerant we should be, you first lecture that on India. We're going to do this clip. Again, I'm not a fan on Vivek, but like I said, if you are a non-white European and you can add value to America, I would be lenient for maybe a permanent resident or a long-term visa, but I still would not give you American citizenship. Why? because you're not European. And that's how I would face it. But let's look at Vivek and let's see how what he's got to say. Again, not a very fan of him. All right, let me just push this here. Okay, let's see what Vivek has to say. I think Vivek, truth be told, man, I'll tell you, if I really think of a snake oil salesman, it's just my gut. Vivek comes to my mind. There's something about this guy I don't like at all, especially me because I'm living in the non-Western world. This stuff would never fly in India. Like if you were a white man in India, it would be, I don't know, it'd be like you living on the moon. It's fantasy. It would never even happen. I don't like these non-Western, non-white people coming to Western countries and lecturing white people on how we shouldn't be racist. Why don't you fix the racism first in India, then lecture me in America? Let's see what Vivek has to say. And again, this is the MAGA movement. Vivek is a leader, you could say, in one way, of the MAGA movement. Are you kidding me? And I've said many times, I'm not MAGA. I'm a nationalist. I'm not MAGA. I support MAGA in many ways, but this is MAGA? Nah, count me out. I'm not interested.
This guy makes a lot of sense.
Okay, and I don't know who this commenter is that said this guy makes a lot of sense. Who the hell is this channel here? I don't know who this Manolot 12. Yeah, I don't think this guy makes any sense. But let's listen and let's see.
Gotta watch this one.
If you believe that boys should compete with girls in girls' sports, I'm sorry, you're not on the team.
So I know I'm sorry, but you got to remember, this is what MAGA likes to do. When it comes to gender, and I agree with them, when it comes to gender, gender is real. There's a man and there's a woman, and we are not the same. We're different. But boy, when it comes to race, though, can't say that. So they always say they want to open it up and say, look at us, man. There's gender, and gender is real. But race isn't. So according to MAGA, gender is real, but race isn't real. No, I disagree with that logic. They're both real.
Team, you have no place in this movement. If you believe, thank you. It's pretty obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you believe in racial quotas in government hiring, you have no place in the conservative.
Okay, now I'll buy that. I don't believe in racial, affirmative action, racial quotas. I get that. So, okay, so far I'm in agreement with this guy, Vivek. I believe gender is real, and there should be, you could say, a form of gender discrimination. This is for men, this is for women. I agree. And now he's talking about affirmative action. So far, I actually am fully aligned with Vivek.
Movement. Sorry, you're not on the team. You're free to believe it. It's a free country, but you have no place in the conservative movement. If you believe in normalizing hatred towards any ethnic group.
Okay, I don't know what type of bullshit he's coming out here. Hatred. Again, America is the least racist country in the world, Vivek. That's why an Indian man like you is allowed to be an American citizen, is allowed to make a ton of money, and is allowed to be a political leader. So I don't like you lecturing white men on racial hatred. We have the least amount of racial hatred in the world. I would say first work on India. There's a lot of racial hatred in India. So right now, I don't like this. I don't like an Indian man lecturing me as a white man American on racial hatred. I don't like that. That doesn't make me feel very good. Go back to India. That's my first feeling.
Toward whites, towards blacks, towards Hispanics, towards Jews, towards Indians. You have no place in the future of the conservative movement.
And who the fuck are you to tell me I have no place in the conservative movement like America? So we have an Indian man now in America telling me I have no place in the American conservative movement. That's what our World War II veterans fought for. Who the fuck are you talking? Send this guy back to India. That's what I'd say. I don't fuck with the Chinese in China when it comes to their politics. This guy from India is starting to lecture me. I have no place because I look at race as very real. So I have no place in the American conservative movement, but Vivek does. Okay, let Vivek be the president of America. Have fun with that.
Period. And I will not apologize.
And look at the people cheering. These are MAGA people, man. They love it. They're like, I'm sure these people want to have Vivek to be the president of the United States. Have fun with that.
For that, I will not hedge.
This guy makes a...
All right, so now let me end this right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to end it. Let me just think, voting, it's a job. We're going to end it with one person, this guy named Steve Bannon. You probably know about him. I need to do more research on Steve, but I would probably say out of all the Trump MAGA political figures, Steve probably to me is more highlighted toward more perhaps a nationalist movement. Again, I don't know all the details on Steve. We're going to do a final clip. But the reason I combine this with Chud the Builder, again, that was a request by a follower, is people, we have been brainwashed over and over of race with MAGA movement, race in America, race. It is part of our political ideology where we have to confront this. We have to start talking about race. And what I'm telling you is race is real, just like gender. And two, America, just like Europe and Western countries, were founded, built, and defended by white men. Not 100% by white men, just 99.99% by white men. Therefore, this is our legacy. This is our tradition. This is what we want to conserve. If you don't, just go to another country. I have nothing wrong. I'm very pro-Black in Africa, pro-Chinese. But anyway, let's do this last one with Steve Bannon. He's the only one so far that I'm like, this guy's pretty interesting. I don't know why Trump ever fired him. What was the deal? Well, now maybe I think I know why Trump maybe fired him. But anyway, let's go finally. Let's go last clip. This is Steve Bannon. This is a short clip. Let me bring this here. All right. So here we're going to do a short clip from Steve Bannon. But again, Steve Bannon's a former naval officer, but he's probably significantly older than me. So who knows? Maybe he was part of that old school military officer corps that was probably much better than my time and this time. But listen to what Steve says. And I have a feeling this is probably a bit of a split where MAGA's going. And I would probably definitely side more with Steve Bannon.
Benji Shapiro sat up here last night and he was all, I'm going to, it's all about the truth. Ben, you can't handle the truth. What is Greater Israel? It's not about Israel itself. It's about an expansionist Israel, an imperial Israel that Netanyahu and that crowd have thought up. And the Israel First crowd is Ben Shapiro, Tel Aviv Mark Levin, and many others that want to put that ahead of America's interests. Charlie Kirk fought that. You know where Charlie Kirk fought it? In the White House. I know, because I was there. When I went back, Charlie Kirk was working with Sergio Gore to make sure that we didn't get sucked into a land war, a decapitation of the Iranian elites that would lead to a massive civil war that American troops would get sucked into, because that was Netanyahu's plan from the beginning. Benji Shapiro set up.
Okay, pretty interesting. Like I said, I never even heard about Steve Bannon until President Trump first ran for president the first term, and I believe it was his chief of staff. I like a lot of what Steve Bannon. So what I would say, and again, this goes in with Chud the Builder with race, and we're going to keep it simple, just like when I talked about America: faith, Christian, family, European, and freedom of speech. What are the building blocks? When you look at leadership, because in leadership, you need to mobilize movements. You can't focus on anything. I guess to make it simple, think about going to the gym. You focus on the big movements, the bench press, the deadlift. You focus on those core movements to move the team, and everything else is sort of secondary. So when I think of the three, or the West Pointer, when you got, I'm just looking at the, I'll look at the Shane. I'll look at the comments when I'm just done with this. So when I think of, remember what I said, faith, family, freedom. So if you ask me, David, why do you think MAGA is going to split? What are the three issues? To make it simple, again, we're only going to focus on three issues. And this is where I don't believe MAGA is a nationalist movement. Now, you might say, well, why do we need a nationalist movement? What's so good about national? You're going to see it happen throughout history. As the country falls, you are going to do two things. You're going to either embrace nationalism or you're going to die. I'm telling you, you're going to see it. It's not me talking. It's the history of mankind. All nations go through this cycle. We become rich, we become prosperous, and then we start, devouring ourselves and going into collapse. And the only way to save it is a return to nationalism. So there's three entities that the MAGA movement does not represent, and nationalism does. The first is Israel. We have to ask ourselves, are we America first or Israel first? It's a basic question. I'm not saying we still can't be friends with Israel. I still believe in alliances, Germany, Canada, the UK, especially countries that are similar to us. So I'm not saying Israel's the enemy, even though some people will say they are, and let's have free speech and debate on that. But we have major American foreign policies issues where I do believe we're putting Israel first and not America. So that's the first issue is we need to talk about Israel. And if we're going to be American first, then that means Israel isn't first. So that's going to be one area. The two is we're going to go back to feminism. There's a lot of MAGA women who think they're traditional and conservative. You're just not. It's just one question alone. Do you think women deserve the right to vote? There's nothing wrong being a feminist per se. There's nothing wrong with women voting, but you are going to be then labeled as a feminist and you're going to take responsibility for your actions like a man. You're going to be treated like a man. It's the same thing if you have a marriage and say, this is your wife. And they say, who has the power in the relationship? And she's like, well, we share it like a partnership. That's fine, but you married a feminist and good luck. It doesn't happen. Versus the wife that says, he's the boss. He's the boss. Now you have a traditional woman. But there's a lot of these MAGA women who are parading around as conservative. They're not. So do you believe women deserve the right to vote? And a woman says, no, women don't vote. She's a conservative woman. She believes in nationalism. Again, if you're a woman that says, screw you, women deserve the right to vote, nothing wrong with it, but you're a feminist. So that's one. And two, we have to talk about race. And one, we have to admit race is real, just like gender is real. And three, we have to say, is America a white European country? That's what our founding forefathers wanted. That's what our founding forefathers created. If you went back to America 100 years ago, that's how it is. So if it's not, when did it change? What is it now? And who changed? Why didn't I get a vote? This is a major debate where we talk about race. But I believe if you're going to be nationalism, there needs to be a racial platform. And I believe that America, at least the bulk, the standard is we are a white European country. It doesn't have to be 100%, but that's who we are. And I don't want an Indian man, Vivek Ramaswamy, Vivek, to be the leader of a white European country. For the same reason that Vivek and his homeland, his brothers and sisters in India, would not tolerate a white man to be the leader of India. Would never happen. So Indian people prefer an Indian man to be the leader of India. Nothing wrong with it. And guess who I prefer to be the leader of a European country? And that's what America is. America was founded by European men, white. So I would prefer a European man to be the leader of a European country. This isn't rocket science, people. It's not at all. So again, this is where I think MAGA is going to split. So again, to the viewer of Chud the Biller, hopefully that answered it. The word nigger, it all coincides. It's an attack on freedom of speech, and it's really meant, as we know, to marginalize the white man even more and more and more. And what do? You destroy the white man, well, you destroy America. We all know that. And that's been happening for decades. That's why the typical white man's a cop. Let me go to questions really quick here. I see Shane. I enjoy hearing your stories like the one you told about the woman in the Air Force pilot, obviously, or the West Pointer. Yeah, let me do some more stories on that. Like I said, though, the one thing that let me tell you this about freedom of speech, and that is I have never got on here talking about China. Let me give you a story, and we're going to end it here because it's an hour, but this is where I've said many things outside of my childhood, because let's face it, your mom, your dad, let's face it, I was lucky to have a father. That also shows why America is just falling apart. Where I grew up, I had a full-time father. I'm not going to say it was normal, but I'm not going to say it was so special. In today's day and age, if you have a father, consider you're a lucky person. So it just shows America's falling apart. So besides my childhood with my father, the biggest things that I probably learned in life was probably the military, because the military is it's a very influential organization, culture, whatever, and then China. Now, I've lived abroad many times to include Europe, but guess what? Europe and America are very similar. China, wow, very different world. I want to tell you the story. It's about freedom of speech, because we always like to say, America, freedom of speech. China, they don't allow it. Well, it depends. It depends on what subjects. So here's a true story that I could do. And I found this in China, and I scratched my head. I said, where's America going with freedom of speech? So if you're in China, you're going to find out pretty quick that China, their view of World War II, of Adolf Hitler, of the Nazis, is very, very different than America. And it is free speech. We're just going to say they look at Adolf Hitler and that in much more of a positive view than America. There's no laws regulate against it. They could freely talk how that, it could be shocking to Americans if you're a German too, because the Germans are brainwashed with World War II. If you're a Jew, whatever you want to call it. But if you go to China, don't be shocked, because I'm telling you now, even though you might be, that how the Chinese openly and freely, meaning they don't get legally persecuted, whatever, when they talk about World War II topics. Now, what's the story? This is so embarrassing to the West that, just like I told you my story before, where I had a lawsuit against the Boeing company in China and China saved me, meaning I had a case that I could compare the American justice system and the Chinese justice. It's amazing how the China, well, this is a similar example about freedom of speech. The story was 3 Chinese tourists went to Berlin, Germany on a tourist visa, on vacation. Very normal. Again, the Chinese like Germany. They like Europe. The Asian people in general like white people. I'll do many stories on, I could easily change this channel into almost a pornographic channel on Asian girls' desire to be with white men. I don't want to sort of devalue the channel into sort of this pornographic thing, but there's leadership lessons to be learned. And again, I didn't go to Asia for the women. I've always preferred white women, but do Asian women like white men? Oh yeah. So anyway, these are 3 Chinese men, and with their families, they went to Germany and Berlin on vacation. Totally normal, because they like European, they like white. While they were in Berlin, this hit the news. So this is, you could probably search the internet. This hit the news. They were at what's called the Brandenburg Gates in Berlin. You may not know what this word is, the Brandenburg Gates, but probably through historical films or books, it's that famous gate in Berlin with Adolf Hitler, the war. It's a famous place in Berlin that's like the center of the city that a lot of tourists go to take pictures and whatnot. So the 3 Chinese men went there with a group and they said, let's take a picture of the 3 of us in front of the gates. And what did they do? They did the Adolf Hitler, I guess it's the Sieg Heil, the Gruß, I guess you could say it's the Roman salute. You know what I'm saying. They do this salute. And unlike the cuck Americans who do this and then they get caught, but then they lie and say, no, I wasn't doing that. I was scratching my head. No, they admitted they were doing, and they said it. They said, we were mimicking what the Nazis were doing and taking a picture. Now, you as a viewer, I don't know, Shane, if you want to answer this, why would 3 Chinese tourists come to Germany in front of the Brandenburg Gates? I don't know how many viewers we have. It's not many. Why would the Chinese people come to the Brandenburg Gates and want to take a picture of them doing the Hitler salute? Just why? Any guess? I know there's a time lapse in this, but if you could write, if there's any comments, take a guess. Why would these Chinese people want to take a picture of them doing the Hitler salute? I think that's what it's called, the Hitler Gruß, the Hitler salute, right in Germany. Why would they do that? Is it because of hatred? To pay respect to Hitler? That's pretty close. That's pretty close. They just admire it. They want to be part of Germany. They looked at the Aryan soldiers as cool. They're like, fuck, man. And they want to take this picture, and then they were going to show their Chinese friends, like, man, we were in Germany, man, right where the Nazis were. So they looked upon it in a positive way, and they just thought it was cool. It was a sign of respect. It was positive. Well, guess what? In Germany, there's a law that if you do this Hitler salute, I learned this when I was stationed in Germany. I didn't know. They warned me about it. You will get arrested by the police. And guess what happened? They got arrested by the police. And it turned into a major diplomatic uproar because they didn't know, even like me, when I was stationed with the U.S. Army in Germany, I didn't know that was against the law because, it's freedom of speech. So if you're a viewer and you go to Germany, do not do this in Germany. You will get arrested in Germany, like the 3 Chinese. Now, they got arrested. They had no clue that it was against the law. And they even said it. They said, yeah, because some people in Germany try to get away with it if they get arrested. They're like, no, I didn't do it. I was, I don't know. They come up with, I was just pointing to the sky. That's all I was doing. Well, these were China. They didn't know. So they just admitted. They said, yes, we were doing the Hitler salute because we thought it looked cool. We were just we thought it would make a good picture. So they admitted it, which that's not good. So now the police are like, you did it, you admitted it, you are now under arrest. And it turned into a big diplomatic thing where the Chinese embassy got involved. And so the point was, and then it got out in the press. And so now what we're looking at is we're looking at China, which is the evil communist regime, and Germany, which is sort of like America, right? Western, liberal. In fact, Germany's more liberal. I mean, if you think feminism is bad in America, don't go to Germany. If you think socialism, at least in the negative, Germany is just horrible. But so you could say Germany, we'll just say Germany is like America, and then you have China. Which country should have more freedoms of speech, of expression? I think and again, I'm not defending China, because if you say bad stuff about the Chinese government, I get it. But I just want to use at least one point. It's an interesting data point. That in Germany, it is you will go to jail. Now in America, you might not go to jail, but let's face it, in America, especially if you're in any type of figure, you could get fired from your job. It's like saying the word nigger. I mean, you could get in a lot of trouble in America. So here you are in Germany, and it took so much. They had to get lawyers. They were arrested. They were put in jail, but they only spent I think 24 hours in jail. And finally, the German government stepped in and they let them off with a warning. But it just made you step back. You're like, what's going on here with this picture? We have supposedly the Chinese government that should be against freedom of speech, and we have the Western world, like Germany, America. We should be open to freedom of speech. And we have Chinese people now going back to China. And what would they say? Don't do that in Germany. You're going to get arrested. And I'm sure many Chinese people, to include even Americans looking here, say, wow, that's not allowed in Germany. It's not. You'll get arrested. What's going on with our systems here? It's the same thing with me in some ways, where I sued the Boeing Corporation, which Boeing is basically the American government. If anyone understands the Boeing, it's basically the American government. And the American government put China over me, believing the Chinese made, and I had to go to the Chinese justice system to get justice over this sexual harassment. And in America, this feminist judge wouldn't even let me go to case. The system's not working. And the difference between me and most Americans is because I left America, I have evidence to compare. It's like being in a job your whole life and you're like, this is the best company ever. Really? Have you ever worked for other companies? No. How do you quite know? But if you're like, hey, dude, I worked for 10 different companies in my whole life, and this is the best company, and this is why. There's more evidence now. You can compare. I work for Coca-Cola, I work for Pepsi, I work for IBM, but I'm telling you, okay. But the same thing, country, when people say America is the best country on earth, okay. And it is true, America is a developed country, and it is difficult for other countries to be better. But America's been under decline. And if you haven't lived in other countries, how do you know? And when you live in other countries, it gives you more of a perspective to compare what's going on. And because I've left America since 2010, it's so obvious to see America's in decline. It's not going to make it. And if you think voting is going to make it, think about it. Voting is a form of expression like freedom of speech. And our freedom of speech is under attack. Meaning, if you're going to do democracies and politics, you have to be able to talk. And that example with China, even the Chinese looked at me. They're like, I thought you had freedom of speech in the West. And I told them, I said, certain topics about World War II, about racial topics, about women, you're really not allowed to talk about. In China, you are. Again, I'm not gonna defend China in everything, but I'm telling you, those topics about racial topics, about feminism, women topics, about World War II, the Jews and stuff like that. And there could be some topics that I'm forgetting, but those topics, no way. They're in China. I mean, it is just very free to talk about. So again, it just shows you what's going on with our system here. So again, we're going to end it here, but to the viewer with Chud the Builder, we're living in a system right now that our freedom of speech is truly under attack. And if freedom of speech is under attack, then how are we going to really have a political system where we're going to be able to debate and argue about these topics? But guess what they do? Just keep your mouth shut and just vote. You hear that time? Just get out there and vote. I just want to end this again, and I'll finally go back to the question. I want to end this again. I'm telling you, it's very important. But if you're a viewer out there and you are the far left, I'm telling you, you're not our enemy. Because I truly believe the only way this system is going to go, it is going to go to violence, guns and ammo. And if you hear these people in MAGA saying violence is never the answer, well, I don't know. I think George Washington would probably disagree with you. And also, if you look at the history of mankind, the history of China, China was formed with violence. So if they say the far left is all about violence, I was in the military. Look at Donald Trump. We're probably going to invade Venezuela. So I'm not on the bandwagon that violence is wrong. We do violence all the time. But I'm telling you, if you're the far left, you're not our enemy. You're not. It just isn't. The people that are controlling this system are controlling you, controlling me. And basically all they want us to do is just shut up, be good little boys, pay our taxes, and believe that voting is going to change the system. Until you get people like me that are just fed up with it, and I left. And here I am leaving, and they're still coming after me. And then even when I come back, ask for help. So hopefully that's it. We're going to go any more questions. I see Shane, in America, your penalties in civilian will be worse than me. Yeah, I mean, I think we all know that in America, you still may be legal, even though this guy Chud, the builder, I mean, he's facing some major legal issues. But I would say in America, if you go hardcore against women, if you go hardcore against, and when I say hardcore, I'm just saying verbally, just verbally. If you go against women, if you go against non-white racially, if you go against the Jews or whatever, pro Adolf Hitler, I would be amazed that sure, you may not end up in jail, but your life may be destroyed. I mean, you'll be unemployed and stuff like that. So there still is a major threat. And the question is in China, and China's just one example, same thing in India. I know in India, these topics are fine. It just makes you wonder if we're going to be a country like America where we say freedom of speech and we protect freedom of speech. I'm living proof with it's not the case. It's just not the case. In those three topics, if anyone has ever lived in non-Western countries, they know these topics have much more open freedom of speech than America. By far, it's night and day. So what's going on? Perhaps there's other things too that Americans are not aware of. But they want you to be dumb, and they want you to believe that the way to change this system is keep paying your taxes because they need that money and just vote. And if the Republican isn't good, vote for the Democrat. And if the Democrat isn't good, vote for the Republican and the Democrat and the Republican and the Democrat and the Republican. And then we'll see where that system goes. Anyway, this is David Baumblatt from Terrabin's Leadership. I appreciate your support. Like, follow, and send these videos out. I really appreciate it. Until then, lead to victory.